we help to turn great creative minds to become great creative leaders. I mean, that is our ambition, that is our idea, that is our mission. And including on top of that, the vision is a creative CEO in every creative business. We think that's really important because many creative businesses out there, they are run by good people, but not necessarily by creative people. And if we are able to help those creative minds to become the heart of the creative enterprise, will be a much better end result. And that is the idea, and that is why we exist, and that is why you guys have come here. So what are we focused on? We call it 6 pillars, and that is leading your enterprise into a competitive future. That is not easy, but it has something to do with goal setting, it has something to do with strategy, being ambitious and differentiate. Leading your clients and partners, take the lead to a better existence. Leading your product quality, leading people, leading yourself, and leading the industry. Become an industry leader. Step up and lobby for better work, for better quality. How do we do that? You know, with leadership, it's always the idea of pushing the charisma thing or so. We don't believe in that. We believe if people understand to deal better with complexity, if they are better in analysis, if they're better in strategies, if they're better in decision making, if they're better in alignment, and if they care about implementation, then over time this will appear, this respect for a person, the trust from various involved, and so forth. So that is actually, in a nutshell, the simple thing. On top of that, we have a kind of interdisciplinary setup, and that is bringing advertising, media, journalism, entertainment industries, design, now also communication technologies. Tomorrow we have Pablos Holman here. He's a hacker, and he understands technology, and we will learn how to hack technology and how that can relate to communication and marketing. So this is the interdisciplinary setup for commercial communication. Then we have 5 modules, 5 double weeks, 3 of them here in Berlin, 1 in the United States, 1 in Asia. We do thesis work, some kind of idea that can refresh, renew, provoke communication as we have it today. Yeah, and then we try to bring all those cultures together on a global basis. I think what you just experienced by the introduction of the participants, this is a global existence of energy, participation, and future thinking. And that is what the school is about. Tonight, we have the 27th President's Lecture. We have Peter Brabeck-Letmathe, Nestlé's current chairman of the board, former CEO. And we talked about his life this morning and what we experienced being focused on sales, being focused on product, being focused on running a company outside of Switzerland, in Latin America, and all these, build up, coming back, taking care of culinary products, and then beginning to oversee and give the idea how Nestlé products on a global perspective, regional and local perspective, should be run, handled, grown. Couldn't be more glad than me stopping now talking and having Peter Brabeck-Letmathe come up here and introduce us to his theme, the transforming landscape of marketing and consumer engagement. So we are very glad to have you here.
Well, Michael, thank you very much for the introduction. As a matter of fact, we spent the afternoon about 3 hours with the students. It's not the right word if I look at the things, but the participants. And I thought this idea about how to make out of a great creative mind, to make a great creative leader, I must say, was closer to my mind than the subject I have to just talk now, because the subject I'm talking now is certainly a subject which is much more technical, it's still exciting, but I thought that the leadership discussion we had this afternoon was very, very fulfilling for me, and I took away, again, a lot away from there. So thank you very much for these 3 hours that we spent together in the afternoon. Now today I'm asked, and this was not my subject of choice, I was asked to talk about the transforming landscape of marketing and consumer engagement. And I think it is not really an overstatement to characterize the landscape in which consumers and brands live as one of massive, massive transformation. And I will share with you our views on what specifically about it is most crucial. But I think straight away I want to say also very importantly that to the Nestlé perspective, it is that the fundamentals of successful brand building have not changed. And I think they are in time, they're really timeless, in fact timeless. Now in periods of such dramatic and rapid change, it's quite easy to get overwhelmed. It's easy to imagine that nothing is like it was before, and that all of the old approaches and all of the old principles have to be discarded. And it's equally easy on the other side, perhaps motivated by the fear of change, to resist transformational realities and to insist stubbornly that current best practices will remain effective when applied just in the new landscape. More challenging, but I think also much more productive than such oversimplification is to study and to carefully reflect on the nature of the transformation, both at the high level, but also by entering deeply into details. And only then, afterwards, to start to adapt and to stay true to what I said before, to those long-term convictions and what I call timeless facts. So in my talk today, I will try to show you a little bit how we at Nestlé are approaching this subject and indeed have and are adapting to the new realities, but also staying grounded, very strongly grounded into what we consider to be these timeless fundamentals of successful brand building. So my presentation today is going to talk a little bit about the new realities as we see them, then describe these timeless fundamentals, give you some Nestlé examples, and then show you a little bit how Nestlé is trying at least to prepare itself and to build capabilities for these new realities. The new realities, I suppose and suspect most of you understand very well the changes in the consumer's life. Those changes, which I think are the most relevant to how the brand engages with the consumers. So I will focus only on what has greatest significance to the Nestlé's brand building effort. I will concentrate very much the influence it has on brand building. And I have to say, for the sake of good corporate governance, that among other sources, I will quote from Mary Meeker of the venture capital firm KPCB and her presentation at last year's Web 2.0 summit in San Francisco. So I don't have to each time say where these sources are coming from of the facts and figures. That's what they told me I have to do legally to be absolutely right. Anyway, that's a new reality. First step of the new reality. First reality, the digitization of consumers is global. In August last year, that's the figures I have, that's the figure here, more than 80% of unique visitors to the top internet properties came from outside the US. So by far, very clearly, this is not anymore a US speciality. The second fact is that digitization of consumers is global. Of the world's 7 billion people, more than 1/3 use the internet, and over 60% of internet users now live in the developing markets, up from 44% only some years ago. So 60% internet users is in the emerging market. Today, internet users in China alone, they represent 25% of total internet users. And from 2007 to 2010, China added more internet users than the US has. Just to show you the dynamics which is in this market. Searching is internet access is increasingly via the mobile. And frankly speaking, I don't see any slowdown in this trend. The mobile 3G subscribers now represent 17% of all mobile subscribers, with strong growth everywhere, but particularly, and you said, see that up there, in developing markets such as China, Brazil, India, and Turkey. Those are the strongest one of the 3G. And advertisers, which you must know because you do the work, are of course adapting to this mobile internet revolution, as illustrated here, where you can see on the one hand the rapid number of global Fortune 1000 advertisers which are using basically this new media, and on the other hand you see the impacts, the smartphone ad impressions, which is the other color. So nearly 24 billion ad impressions were delivered only to smartphones in September last year. 25 billion ad impressions. About 7 billion it was a year before. So in 1 year we moved from 7 billion to 25 billion of ad impressions only on the smartphones. And companies like ours would be mistaken to view smartphones as simply another device in which to deliver advertising. Because smartphones, in one way or the other, have become for many consumers a getaway for everyday life. They're offering the news. We read on the smartphones the news. They entertain us. We have information, social connectivity, and access to 24/7 commerce in an exploding area of product and service categories. The third important reality is that time spent on the web is changing, very much changing, and it is increasingly of a social versus the individualized nature. It started to be very individualized, but it's moving rapidly to the social part, and this everywhere in the world. And social media are fundamentally and profoundly revolutionizing the way we live. Consider for a moment Facebook with 845 million users. If we would look at Facebook the way we do it, Facebook is for us the third biggest market in the world. If you think from a population point of view, China first, India, and then Facebook, 845 million inhabitants of Facebook. And it is a global reality. if you look on the other side here, the top 10 countries on Facebook, you will see Indonesia, Turkey, Philippines, all of them between the 10 biggest markets of Facebook. And the other thing, which is also interesting, which is on the chart down here, yes, it started off as a use movement, but it's not anymore. If we believe that Facebook only is use, we are missing a big part as marketers. More than 60% user growth is among people aged 35 to 54. And more than 100% user growth is the 55 and older. So Facebook has changed rapidly. And it's not only Facebook penetration impressive, as you can see here. Consider that 57% visit Facebook on a daily basis, which means 425 million of people have access via mobile, and they are constantly, every single day, on Facebook. There are not many other markets in the world that have these characteristics, frankly speaking. And I think this represents a powerful conversion that we have in this new reality, namely social on the one hand and mobile. Those are, for me, the two most important aspects which have enormous implications for a company like ours. And finally, and largely as a result of the dynamics mentioned earlier, the proportion of online brand impressions from so-called earned media is increasing rapidly. That's the red chart up there. Okay? Now, what is earned media? Earned media are impressions which are delivered to consumers not by the brand itself, but by other friends of the Facebook, by other consumers. And these consumer-to-consumer exchanges are among the most valuable of the weapons in a brand builder's arsenal. As we all know that consumers normally trust much more a colleague, a friend, another consumer, than he trusts the brand itself. Now, this is a generalization, there's nothing new. I mean, that word of mouth has always been the most trusted source of information. We know that. That's not new. What is really new is this explosive growth in consumer access to word of mouth. I mean, before you could talk to one. Yeah? You met him in the store, you met him in the street, you met him at the university. It was one-to-one. Today, with this multiplying effect, it's not one-to-one. That's what's new. That's what changes so much. And it is instantaneously. So earned media is, as I said, a very valuable weapon, but it is also an elusive one by its very nature. Positive advocacy must be earned. You cannot buy it. And therefore, it's impossible even to plan for it with absolute certainty. This is not like a media plan. You cannot say forward, I mean, so much rating, so much thing, and so much gross rating points and whatever we had in the good old time, that's over. You cannot plan for this thing. So the other aspect is that the efforts, if you really want, and you make efforts to get earned media, has a big probability of backfiring it if it's not done very, very carefully. And there's nothing worse than a negative mouse-to-mouse, which is called, in your jargon, spurned media. Okay? That's the other side of it. Earned media is great, spurned media is quite destructive. And let me tell you from our own experience, we have quite a lot of spurned media coming up to us all the time. So that's the new realities. As I pointed out, we can have the next chart. As we pointed out, the new realities are digitization of consumers, which is global. Is there a way to get the next one? Thank you. So the new reality, digitization of consumers is global. Internet access is increasingly mobile. The time spent on the web is increasingly social, which at least for me was quite a surprise. Because at my time when I was active, it was still very individualized. Today it's not. And the brand impressions are increasingly via earned media. That's a big difference. And frankly speaking, if you would ask me, in no time do we see that those trends of the new reality are going to change in the future. Yes, at Nestle, and I'm sure many of you, and especially you in the agencies, I think we all have somehow anticipated them. They're not coming completely surprised. As I said, for me, because I'm old, the social one was more surprising. The rest, I was not so much surprised. But what is really surprising is the speed with which it is happening, and the impact it is happening, and the amount of people that are being participating in these things. And I think we have been on a multi-year journey to build new or enhance existing capabilities across our organizations, but I don't think we have been sufficiently fast enough. But before I go to that, I want to spend a little bit of time on this other part, which is the stable part. Remember this afternoon we talked about the brain, about the stable part of the brain and the incredible volatile part of the brain. Well, here it's the same. There is something, what I call the timeless fundamentals. And I will just talk for what I know, which is this timeless fundamentals of Nestle brand building, which for us are going to exist still into the future for many, many years. To be clear, the first thing is we define success in this context as a journey, not as a destination. Might sound what I said in the afternoon. As a journey in delighting consumers and building or strengthening great brands. And greatness in this here is defined by strong brand affinity, loyalty, brand advocacy that translate into profitable and sustainable growth in sales and market share. That's greatness of a brand. At the end of the day, that's what we really want to achieve. This is our target. And this virtuous circle of consumer delight and brand greatness may sound obvious, but it's not something that we should take for granted. This is not coming just because there is a rule. This is coming because we are consciously working on it, and we are also consciously using concrete objective metrics which allow us in assess the performance of the brands. It's not only the turnover. We are checking exactly how strong the brand is, what role it plays in the consumer's life, and things like this. So let me come to these fundamentals. Our first timeless fundamental is that all brand activities should be guided by what we call a brand essence and a communication framework that defines exactly what we want the brand to stand for in the hearts and in the minds and lives of consumers and other stakeholders. And how we want that this brand behaves and express itself. So here, for example, you have the global brand essence of Milo, which is a chocolate malt beverage in Asia, Oceania, and Africa. What does the product do? Milo provides energy when kids need it most during sport or active play. Since sport is an excellent vehicle for physical and well as emotional development, Milo plays a big role in helping kids achieve their own ambition. And thus the core essence is nourishing ambitions. That's how Milo is being positioned. And I want to emphasize the timelessness of this fundamental in light of the view by many in our industry that consumers are now in full control of brands. I hear that now more and more. You know, in your time, you were still controlling the brands, but today, forget about it. The one who controls the brand is the consumer. But without disrespect for anyone, I find this view very misguided. The notion that the consumers are in control of what ultimately matters is nothing new. This has always existed. We always have said in the good old time, the brand reality that resides in the individual and collective hearts and minds and manifests itself in the willingness or unwillingness to purchase, remain loyal and share positive word of mouth with other consumers. That was always the control that the consumer had over brand. This is not new. But to suggest further that brand builders must now cede control completely is, for me, frankly speaking, an abdication of responsibility. Brand builders today, more than ever, must clearly define the essence of the brand and the core dimensions of its behavior, that which makes it really unique and desirable, and manage these activities in full alignment with this definition. Let me give you an example. The Skinny Cow. I like her, Skinny. Nice girl. That's a brand of ice cream and other snacks, a product which is designed from the very beginning, as you can see. I mean, it is designed to satisfy women's desire for indulgent treats, but without fat and calories, which comes normally with this. And the brand, which was brought to life by the brand character, which is her, Skinny, that's her name. This brand is highly engaging to consumers in social media, as evidenced, for example, in this one here. This is a Facebook page, okay? Now what you see here, and I don't know whether you can read that, but what you see here is a reality of Skinny talking to its friends. And Skinny says she was starting exercise classes in the morning and asked her fans whether they also exercise in the morning, and if so, how they get through it. And you see they're up. So I've decided to start taking body boot camp classes. The only problem is that they start at 6 o'clock. Yawn. Anyone else work out in the morning? How do you make it through? Okay? And here you see the reaction of these people. I work out at 3:30. Sometimes I sleep when my workout closes. Listen to fast music or watch action movie so that I don't fall asleep. The next one tells you what they are doing, what their life. Now you see, those are consumers talking to Skinny. And they talk to Skinny like it was one of their fancy friends, a great, great friend. And what I say is, they join happily as if they were interacting with this sassy girlfriend, and which in fact is exactly, precisely, how the brand has been designed for. That's exactly the style you want to have, talking the brand to its consumers. Okay? To bring this brand personality to life might seem happenstance, but in reality it's very carefully planned and implemented. So you can see here, this is now the internal part, of course, okay? The do's and the don't do's when Skinny talks, so that everybody, every brand manager, every agency works with us, knows exactly how they talk and what they are not saying, you know. Don't overuse the cow puns, you know. Some of them is not too much, less than 5% of the time. Or do acknowledge mavens by their first name when they're responding. Yeah, Heather, it was great. I had the similar experience, you know. So this is not, again, it's not just happening, it is all controlled. And therefore I said before that managing brand behavior in social media is much more challenging in many respects than traditional media. Because the brand has to behave 24/7, every single time, because there is no hour for those things. It has to behave the same way. It needs to respond in a conversational tone to consumer comments, even when the consumer comments come sometimes back very aggressively. Many times even insulting. Not always like this. The way how you would interact with somebody lively. And it needs to compete for attention not only with other brands, but with the consumer's real friends. They also want to talk to them. And this takes, what I said, a winning brand design. This is not left out of control. This is a winning brand design and an outstanding execution. And as I said, which in turn requires brand builders to exercise control, at least for all those aspects that can be controlled. So the second timeless fundamentals at Nestle is that brands must exist to positively impact a consumer's life. Again, this afternoon we talked about how you create leadership. And I said one thing that everybody wants is to have an impact. And the same thing is with a brand. The brand wants and needs to have an impact in consumers' life, whether it's in big ways or in small ways. And that all brand activities and communications must contribute to that impact and vision. Now you may recall Milo, which is I don't have here, which we're talking about nourish ambitions. But all of our brands, and I just show you some of them, all of them have an essence which impacts the life of the consumers somewhere, wherever in the world. Whether it's Maggi with creating good food moments, or whether it's Purina pet care visibly enhancing the health, because that's what the pet owner really wants. He wants to see his pet with shiny hair. He wants to visibly see how health is being done. Or whether it is Nesquik making growing up fun and healthy, and so you can go on. So there's always this impact in the consumer's life. So not surprisingly, the impact ambition for Nestle corporate brand is to enhance the quality of life with good food and beverages everywhere, which we expressed very simple, good food, good life. So it goes also for the corporate brands, not only for the Think brands. And let me be quite clear, we are not shy about expressing what and how we want to impact in public life. As you can see here on the mobile version of our corporate website, Nestle.com. And you will find this public promise on the brands page of Nestle wherever you look. Good food, good life is a promise we commit to every day, everywhere, to enhance lives throughout life with good food and beverages. That's what this company is standing for. That's what it is. That's how we present it. That's how we impact the lives. Now our third fundamental, and I'm still on the fundamental thing, this has not changed with all the new reality. Third one is that all brand communication must be part of a higher level narrative that we call the big idea. Now we're getting closer, I'm sure, to your heart. And shown here is a big idea for Milo in Malaysia, which I will explain shortly. Play more, learn more. In Nestle, the big idea is neither the creative execution, that's up to the creative in the agencies, nor a strategy statement. It is somewhere in between, and is nothing more than creativity applied to our strategic intent, but before considering, and that's important, how or whenever or whether this creativity will be applied to a TV commercial or a press ads website or whatever. This comes afterwards to you. So recall that Milo is all about nourishing ambitions for kids between 12 and 17 years and their moms. Now consider also for those who have been living in Malaysia, but it's not only Malaysia, it is in Japan, it is especially in the Asian parts, that academic success of kids is increasingly important to parents. Such is that in many of those countries, children go to school from the morning to the evening. And that leaving very little time for sport and play. And the problem of the mother is that's what she knows is necessary for her child to be successful in life, but she feels bad about that the child doesn't have time to play and to make sport. That's a dilemma that she has. Okay? So the Milo big idea, developed based on this nourishing ambition, said sport is a great teacher. So you can play more and you will learn more. We turned it around. We made it that by doing sport, he will learn, and he will learn a different part what he might learn at the school. Now, we also had in Milo a long history of sports sponsorship, so the authority to deliver against this idea was given. And inspired by this big idea, Milo Communication in Malaysia is designed to relieve the mother's tension which she has. They feel by positioning sport as a complement to and not a substitute for learning. That's basically what the big idea behind this. Now let me show you 2 TV commercials that were developed based on this big idea. The first one was running in 2009 and the second one last year. So let's have a look at them.
Can I make friends for life? Can I see what it's like to be a hero? Can I lose and find the strength to come back for more? Can I find what you need to keep going? Can I face my fear? And can I?
Yes, you can go out to play.
Milo. Play more, learn more.
We know that properly crafted big ideas, well executed, will also deliver big results. And you see here basically how we have improved. For example, our TV advertising, which still represents over half of our media investment, is increasingly effective as measured by the copy testing performance of our ads, and which you can see here. In 2011, we had more than half of all of Nestle ads scored in the top quartile of industry database from Millward Brown and Ipsos, versus 40%, for example, in 2010 and 30% in 2009. And this trend is in direct proportion to our application of a big idea discipline. And some of your agencies might feel that. We don't allow anymore to have a completely free field for our subsidiaries. They have to pick up the big idea. Now, how they afterwards implement it in their country, of course, is a different thing. Big ideas, if they're really well executed, they also can drive the earned media. Remember the importance we talked about the earned media. What is a big idea about contracts, which is a mineral water? It basically helps women eliminate toxins, and it provides a significant percentage of daily calcium and magnesium requirement, so that slimming becomes easier when it's fun. Okay? That was a big idea. It's basically a slimming advice for women. It helps you to eliminate the toxins, but on the other hand, it gives you a high level of calcium, and therefore it is a perfect partner for exercise. So what happened? This was in Lyon. We just installed 20 bicycles, training bicycles, in front of the thing, and then let things go. Put one lady up there to move, okay?
On incirait mieux si c'était plus fun. Pour vous y aider, il y a Contrex. Contrex, mon partenaire mensuel.
This was a traditional start, but the outcome was, if you can have the next chart, if you can have it, we had 25 million views, 14.3 million on YouTube. It was, here we are, the #1 video viewed in September in France. It was a #1 video shared in October worldwide. It was in YouTube's 20 most liked shows ever, and it improved, as you can imagine, market share substantially. So I thought it is another way how you can a big idea, still having the big idea, but using, of course, different medias. So I hope that these examples, Milo, Skinny Cow, or Contracts, illustrates how applying timeless fundamentals in a manner fully adapted to the new world reality can be very successful to build brands. But moving forward, we know that we need to do more. That most importantly, by continuing to enhance the organizational capability in a world, as I said, of fast-moving change. So as a way to institutionalize these fundamentals, which took us almost 150 years to really learn about this, we created brand building the Nestle way. And what it does, basically, it is a repository of best practices, tools, and case studies, and more importantly, is a continuously evolving learning environment for our 8,000 marketing people worldwide. The best practices and tools to support them are taught by the marketing teams face-to-face via training courses and workshops, but they also have an easily accessible online repository, which we call the House of the Nestle Brand Building. Now, even that, I think, is not enough. So what we did now, in regard to digital and social media, we recently set up what we call the Digital Acceleration Team, made up of marketing managers from all over the world with high affinity, and I would say most of them relatively very young, because they really have to have high competence in this area. So what we built is a state-of-the-art digital nerve center at our headquarters, where in real time 30 people from all over the world, and really coming like I saw this afternoon here, they can work with the digital work, observing what's happening just now here. So for example, we can go up when we have an issue. I go up sometimes. I look at the Twitters, what is the latest Twitters going on. You have the mass media announcing a news, good or bad. You can go there, look, and see any Twitter of the world. You see the person, the photo of the person who makes the Twitter. You see the content. You can intervene immediately. We have, at the same time, for example, the friends of KitKat. We have now 6,547,000 last time I looked at it, friends of KitKat, who talk with KitKat the same way than the other ladies were talking with Skinny Cows. And the person who is responsible for the KitKat brand over the world is sitting there real time, see a Twitter, can come in, talk to them, respond if there was an issue. We had an issue just recently with with a product quality in Brazil on a Saturday afternoon. The Brazilians didn't know about it, but this team, which is sitting up there 24/7, found it out immediately, started to contact our Nestle people in Brazil, and within an hour, the same person who had complained, he got an answer from Brazil saying we take care of this problem and things like this. And then you can see how I respond on the tweet again, coming back and saying that's incredible. I mean, I couldn't believe that anybody was there in Brazil at that time. Well, they were not there. So those is just, we turn those people every 8 months and send them back, and they became then afterwards our social media specialist in the different countries, and they will be your future partner, I'm sure, in this area. But in addition to that, and to rapidly accelerate our competence and commercial performance in social media's most important platform, we recently entered into a global strategic partnership with Facebook. And this partnership focuses on 4 main areas of value creation, which is discounted media cost, which is consulting and training, consumer insights, and innovation and social business. But again, for me, the most important thing is that we are learning, and learning fast. And that with Facebook, which is not the only one new partners that we have, but I can see whether in weeks we have changed the way how we are working and how we are approaching our consumers. So one of these learnings were, of course, the usage Okay, we have done this one. What about the next one? The usage of, for example, the apps. Very important medium today. The Maggi apps, which you see here, helps consumer shop for the right ingredients, then prepare tasty and healthy family meals, or to create new recipes, even when constrained by the ingredients they happen to have in the kitchen. If they don't have a certain one, the app will tell them, you can substitute this with this, or can substitute with that. Very interactive. The next one, which is a Nestle dessert app, focus on chocolate desserts recipes, perhaps more interest for the ladies, has been highly successful with downloads equivalent to 10% of all iPhone users in France have today this app. And what they do, again, it suggests recipes based on specific dinner or dining occasion. What it does additionally, this one, it identifies the nearest store where you can buy all the ingredients, so that you have this and you say, okay, I can go to this one and I can get the main ingredients there. When you're in the shop, you can look whether you have everything. If something's missing, again, it can help you. And users can even scan a Nestle Desserts barcode for recipe ideas which are appropriate for that particular variety. Nestle Japan, I thought, was also a very interesting one, because it affords a certain mobility. It is perfect for the use in the kitchen while cooking. This one, what it had especially, it has a voice recognition. So it talks to you, you can ask, so you don't have to have the app in your hand, you just put your iPad there, you talk to it, and he will answer to you and will help you while you're doing the ingredients. So you know, when you have the 2 eggs in the hand and the flour there and the bowl in the middle, and then you still have an iPod somewhere, difficult. Anyway, this one allows you through to this recognition Siri on the iPad to do all of this. So winning in mobile is critical for our brands, so we will not let success to be anecdotal. And in order to institutionalize best practices and leverage the scale in the applications, we have now created a service app laboratory for excellence. We call it Just Sail, so that everybody remembers what it really has to do at the end of the day. And this is going to be, again, located in Webbe, and it's going with a regional hub in Singapore, because this is one of the areas where it's going the fastest. So, before ending my remarks, and then opening it up for question, let me say a few words about our communication partners relationship. That was also asked in the afternoon. Here again, I would say timeless fundamentals are applying. We believe in the value of long-term relationships with a relatively small number of partners worldwide, and I think we invest time and efforts to make sure that our partners deeply understand us, and that there is an emotional link between the partners and our brands, as emotional as the link our brand managers have with their brands. Successful communication over the long term only comes about when the client and the partners are committed to the mutual success and collaborate in a foundation of trust. But you will notice, perhaps, in the not so long ago, you would only have 4 or 5 here. And you will notice Facebook on the side. And what I said before, they and other social platform owners, or even technology companies, will also be and are becoming strategic partners of Nestle, recognizing the rapidly changing technology landscape and its impact on consumers and brand. They do not replace, let me be very clear about this, they do not replace our creative and media agencies. But I think you have seen that they fill a very important third seat at the table for our marketing people when planning for brand building success in today's world. And that brings me to the end of my talk. And before opening up for questions, let me just re-emphasize how important it is to Nestle to navigate well through this new reality which we have discussed together. Testing, learning, sharing lessons learned across the company, and continuously adapting our brand building actions as we go. This need not and will not come at the expenses, however, of what we feel are those few but very important, timeless fundamentals of successful Nestle brand building. Thank you very much for the attention.
My name is Andreas, a photographer, and then busy in online communication for bigger brands. You had mentioned right at the beginning of your lecture that Nestle is dealing all the time with bad word campaigns through the internet, like virals, were changed, like this Nescafe and Espresso spot with George Clooney and the piano coming straight from heaven, and there was something, when I saw this on TV, presented by a young girl in a news channel trying to put pressure on Nescafe, what went through my head instantly was Nestle would be perfectly advised just to ignore it, but I didn't follow the whole thing. So what was your reaction on this?
I think we have the right person over here.
And we were on an individual dialogue, so not posting on the Facebook wall already in the afternoon. Just to give you the background, it was an NGO in Switzerland who was trying to use the leverage of the awareness of Nespresso and obviously Clooney to put pressure on the company as such, meaning also Nestle. The idea was that we move completely to fair trade sourcing. We're working with Rainforest Alliance. There is a clear agreement between fair trade and Rainforest Alliance that these two are not competing. So that's the background. So what we did on the campaign was trying to really focus on individual dialogue, and we had a team of youngsters in the office together with my marketing colleague and myself, and trying to answer this in the same kind of tone of voice and all these things, but obviously under pressure, not simulation. What happened as an effect was the spot was viewed obviously quite well. However, there was no spillover to classic media, relatively low. Most of the comments were focused not on sustainability and fair trade. They were mostly focused on the production value of the video, which was excellent. And the guy who was the Swiss actor who performed this piano scene, he was very well known in Switzerland. It took quite long. After 3 days, we had direct contact with the NGOs. So in this case, is always manage the communication on one side, but you obviously have to also find a solution on the other side. There's big help on the Nestle side. There's Pete Blackshaw, who is head of this whole function, and you need to be interconnected. We were also lucky that it was not spreading worldwide, which is another thing.
Yeah, as I said before, I mean, you have the two things. This can be very positive and this can be very negative. And when I mentioned we have a little bit of those experiences, I mean, we had this one, we had, of course, the Gorillas and Kit Kat, and which was another one, much bigger, frankly speaking. And so it goes on. I mean, that's something. The good thing is that today, through this acceleration team, we see what's going on straight away. And that allows you to be aware. Before, I mean, the gorilla stuff, until we realized what had happened, this thing was already blown out. Okay? And they finished, as you might know, they finished at the end of the day in the middle of the shareholders meeting, drilling a huge hole in the door and coming down on ropes and as gorillas and things like this. So I mean, this was a big one. Big show. So, yeah. And then you have the positive ones, like the one I just showed you on contracts, or I mean, the Clooney by itself. I mean, the impact it had. If you think about how the Clooney, especially for what else, how this has been used in the campaign, for example, French election campaign. I mean, Sarkozy coming into the shop, and then what else? I think so. I mean, it's a new learning.
Thank you for the insightful speech, lecture. I'm Tal Miura from Dentsu Tokyo, and our president is, of course, the president of advertising agency, but I don't think he can provide such a, deep, insightful lecture about the brand communication. I was surprised, you know, that you have a bunch of things to do, but you can provide such a detailed lecture in our area. So my question is about the George Clooney's Nespresso campaign. Now, I think now less and less brand is trying to do a global campaign because they know that global market is now fragmented. But it seems like George Clooney's campaign is global. And why did you, why Nestle made it global?
Well, first, let me answer the first question, and then I will ask again the specialist to talk about George Clooney, which, by the way, is not a global campaign, but I'm sure he will tell you why. The first question was why the chairman of a company like Nestle knows relatively in detail how you build brands. The answer is that
was not my question.
Well, thank you for the compliment. But I also hope that during this presentation I convey to you the importance we are giving to the brand building. I mean, this starts at the level of the chairman and goes down into the organization. But if anybody touches one of those billionaire brands that we have, and we have about 22, he would be touching it without having involved the executive board. He would have a problem. Because this is the value of our company. If we have been able, during my time, to move the market capitalization from 50 billion to 210 billion, what is the difference? The difference is only exclusively the value of our brands. Okay? It's not because we had more factories, we had less factories. Okay? It's not the value of the machines or things like or head offices and things. The difference of the market capitalization between 50 and 220 is exclusively the value of our brands. And that's why, at least at Nestle, branding and marketing is always chairman's and CEO responsibility. That's the reason why we are so close to this thing. Okay? Now, the second one, I think I will ask you again.
It's not Clooney who always is seen as the one who generates the growth. It's word of mouth. It was and still is. So there's more than 50% of the growth we're getting from satisfied consumers who are sharing this experience with friends, family. And that's very important. So this is back to the basic thing. We would be not successful with not having the highest coffee quality. But there's one element which we build in at the beginning. So we have the highest quality coffee, we have the Nespresso system in the machines, and we have the club. And this was already before Facebook. And in the case you just asked the question, the Facebook members were our best advocates and best ambassadors and helpers because they didn't like that other people attack the brand. So why now Clooney? Clooney, first of all, was selected by club members. So we had 40 different celebrities. Most of the people asking who was number 2, Monica Bellucci. but Clooney was seen as a best representative in terms of, you know, I'm a club member and who would be a person who could be. We did the cowboy together. Nobody was asked about Marlboro, who is a cowboy good or not. But here it was asked. So Clooney was seen, first of all, he is a man, he has a voice, he was arrested last week. More a PR thing, but he still was. He's engaged. And he was at times when it was not very popular, had a voice in the US. And this was what consumer really liked, and obviously he looks a bit Italian, he has a home there, and so he stands for this espresso kind of. We use it when the brand was going global. because at a certain point it's word of mouth, which we still need because it's a super premium brand. So there is no mainstream thing. But you know, if you enter new markets, you need to, at a certain time, to enhance this. So to your point, still for us, the club communication is the biggest emphasis we have, because the club members are the most valuable asset. We have more than 10 million. And obviously they'll be using Facebook and all the other communication channels, but we have a direct communication since years already.
Yeah, so building brands means also building friends. Yeah? So that goes together.
No, I said the afternoon when we discussed, you remember, but I didn't know that you would be here in the evening. I said, the first thing and the most important thing is the quality of the product and the service that you're offering. You cannot supplement lousy quality with good advertising. They will never work. So the fundamental thing is, and that was, I think, Nespresso, exactly what you were saying just now. It is an impeccable quality. It's the best cup of Nespresso than you can get, full stop. And then you can build on this and put a great communication campaign, which I think it is. But if we had a lousy coffee, there's no Clooney that could make a success out of Nespresso. It is the quality of the service and the way that the brand behaves in a daily life, which is a fundamental part of the success. And don't forget, today we have 52 competitors. 52 competitors, which are all trying to challenge Nespresso. And we are still growing double-digit, more than 20%. Well, it's even official, so we can say 24%. So, I mean, it shows you the power, but it's this combination. First of all, and the most important thing in a brand is the quality of the product or the service you have. And then you can add to that a great communication.
I want to thank you, Mr. Brabeck, for a wonderful presentation. It was very interesting to see the extent to which your company depends upon digitally delivered media for building brands. And that makes me wonder whether you ever get worried about the potential dangers involved in that. There was a story a couple weeks ago about a sunstorm and that it was going to maybe interfere with GPS satellite transmissions and servers and power stations. Of course, it didn't happen, but for as important as the internet is, it is in many ways a lot more unstable in media than your traditional magazines, newspapers, television was when you're a couple of decades ago. And I'm just wondering where your company stands on issues like freedom of access, copyright information on the internet. I mean, on the one hand, you need the internet in order to build these communities and get these hits. But on the other hand, you're actually monitoring the internet. You're actually checking in to see who's looking. I'm just sort of wondering what your company's policy is on internet freedom issues.
Well, there were quite a lot of questions from the sandstorm to the privacy issue on the whole thing. The first one, the easier one for me, is to talk the influence of the sandstorm and the sunstorm, which is much more important than the sandstorm. The sandstorm really has an impact, can have an impact on GPS or internet thing. Well, I would say I'm more worried about, if I am worried about, that we would have interruption of our logistic system, of our globe system, which allows us to run the company. Then I would be worried that we have a half an hour breakdown of Facebook or something like this, frankly speaking. I mean, for me, much more important that the system is stable is because we are running the company today completely through these modern systems. So that's the first thing, okay? Now, the dangers I mentioned several times where I see the biggest dangers. Anybody who is not your friend will try to undermine the most important asset that you have and that you can only earn over a long period of time. Trust. Every single enemy of yourself, okay? And we have some NGOs which are not very friendly to us, okay? We have others which are perfectly collaborative or constructive, critical but constructive. But we have some of them who are not. The only thing they want to do, and they are doing, is to undermine the trust that our consumers have in our company. And they do it in every single thing, whether it is just now saying that we are responsible for the murder of a labor union gentleman in Colombia, whether it is by launching a film, Bottled Life, okay, where they have my hand on the front steam and I'm squeezing out the world at the last drop of water and things like this. If you think about it, whatever they are doing, it's always the same thing. Undermine the trust. And as this medium there gives you this incredible opportunity, multiplier effect that we talked before positively when I said word of mouth always existed. But what didn't exist was a multiplier effect and the speed with which they can. Well, they also tried to use it. Okay? This is for me the biggest danger that we have. This is why we have to be so incredibly alert on what is happening out there. And for example, I mean, again, you see the input, sometimes the input is coming from mass media. You have an article in the newspaper, and you can see sometimes this article in the newspaper, which was read perhaps by, I don't know, 3,000 people. It is being replicated there, and immediately you have 200,000 people. That's where the really dangerous part of the thing is. Because as I said before, one thing that you cannot recuperate is trust, which is lost. Once a consumer has lost the trust in you, in your organization, there's no way you can get it back. Okay? So this is the area where I'm mostly worried about. And this is the area where you really have to learn. And it's a learning process. Because you are not going to get a positive answer if you're just coming in the middle of a Twitter discussion, going in and saying this is not true, hey. No way. Or what others have tried, to put somebody's straw man in there and start to speak good about you. This can go straight backfire against you. So how to learn, how to behave, how to, like Nespresso was doing, and it also took a little bit of time, frankly speaking, I mean, until we found the right tonality. We did a stupid thing, for example, in the Kit Kat Gorilla thing. That's why it became so big. We prohibited that the brand was being used in Facebook. I mean, this backfired on us. I mean, like, it was. But you know, this was done by the people in the market, and they were afraid and overwhelmed, and they made one of the most fundamental mistakes you can make. Okay, so that's the area I'm really worried about. The rest, I mean, it's an unstable media. Yes, it is. But I mean, I don't think that this is really having a major impact. That's the undermining of trust and how fast it can go. And knowing that you cannot recuperate it afterwards, that's what I'm mostly worried about.
Yeah, thanks for a wonderful presentation, really. My question is about company culture, okay? I was really impressed by the DAT. I think that's amazing and and all the changes that are happening, all the sudden changes. How is the company culture of 320,000 employees, 100 years old company, really coping with those changes? Is that you're affecting company culture by acting and putting these departments so the acts change the way people think about it? Or you are actually staying that we have to cope with the changes, or is a regular part of life for Nestlé? And how is the people in how's your employees coping with the changes? I know you have it clear, because you're supposed to ask, but how is the rest of the people doing?
And the other thing is, I was amazed, not amazed, but I knew it, but how Facebook, it reached 1 billion soon. It's the third nation, if it's called a nation.
Yeah.
How serious, and we're talking about all the rumors, the internet, the bad and the good, that's part of it, you know, but I'm looking at it from the marketing point of view. You have 1 billion consumers ubiquitously in Facebook. Do we know what the market share is inside Facebook? I mean, we know what the market share is in China and India. Do we know it in Facebook? We have the measurements. I would like to know about that.
Yeah,
how do you measure Facebook as a nation?
Well, not as a nation. What I know now, which I didn't know before, now that we have a strategic partnership, now I get access to all the data. And it's very interesting because, frankly speaking, Facebook is also learning. Facebook, and that's why they made the strategic partnership with us. Yeah. It started up in Davos when we met Sally, and we had invited her to talk to us about the revolution, the media revolution, and out of this came a discussion, and we thought that it was good to become strategic partners because they have to learn. If I talk to them about brand building that I talk to here, for them this is as new and revolutionary than when they talk to me about Facebook and the thing to me. You know, it's not only one side. Yeah? So what we know today is, for example, what I mentioned before. KitKat has on Facebook 6,547,000 friends who talk 57% every day with KitKat. Think about that. Just talk to each other all the time, like they talk to Skinny Cow, which I showed you before. Now, Skinny Cow has much less, but we have, KitKat is the highest friend level that we have, but take Willy Wonka in the United States, has about 4 million, 4.5 million. Milo, for example, in Asia has enormous amount, about 2 million and something of friends. We know now. That's very interesting. Not only we know now, we know who they are. Okay? Now, and then comes the question about privacy and the things like this. I mean, as I said before, I was surprised. I go up in this war room or whatever you want to call it. I can see every single Twitter in the world which talks about Nestle coming in. And I can see whether it's positive, negative, and we have a thing, and not only mine, but also when they're talking about my competitor. Okay? So I'm staying there, and you can see, and then you see, if you want, you can stop, and you see who it is, the face the person is, and what it's saying. It's absolutely. I mean, the way how you start to think about the products and the things like this. Now, how do you do that with an organization? Well, I always think you have in an organization the two trends. I mean, there's no doubt that the young generation coming out of university, having come to the Berlin School of Creative Leadership, when they come back, well, I don't have to convince them of this. I have to convince them of the fundamentals. That they don't forget me the fundamentals. Yeah? But then you have, of course, a big block in the middle who is saying, well, you know, we have been so successful, and so why the hell we have to start to do this? This is more danger, this is more things like this. And you have to then, from the top down, convince people that, well, nothing is static, everything is changing, and that those changes are happening very fastly. So we talk, the CEO, for example, has twice a year in Weber a meeting with 1,400 people, where he talks about these things and to wake them up and to make them feeling. And then when you do, and you create such an acceleration room, and you bring in the 30 brightest people from all over the world, you know, suddenly the organization says, wait a moment, something is serious here about. Okay? So it is of course, first you have to be convinced, secondly you have to then to communicate, and third you have to live it.
Thank you so much for your speech. What comes to mind is you said the biggest enemy is complacency, and that you need to be steady. And how do you motivate yourself?
Coming to Berlin and talking to you.
You try to, you know, eventually 320,000 people, and they all look into you, you know, and what do you do?
To stay motivated?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I like to shape. I said in the afternoon, I don't like to forecast, because anyway, this is always wrong. But I like to participate and shape the future. And if you want to shape the future, you have to be constantly updated what's happening out there, what's going on. Because only then can you be part of an effort to shape something new. And that's basically what motivates me. But that's what has motivated all my life. How can I help to shape something new, different? Then Nestle, after having created the acceleration room, media acceleration room, Nestle is not the same. It's a new one. It's different. Okay? That's what motivates. Now, how do you learn? How do you be? Frankly speaking, I'm not joking. When I accept to come to speak to you, it's as much for me than it is for you. But it's even that I make it for me first. Because a confrontation with a creative group like this, or when I talked in the afternoon about going to a Chinese university where I spent Harvard, Wharton universities, and to confront a group of young students. My friend, I learn a lot. That's what motivates me, basically.
Okay, one more and then we close it.
Yeah.
Good evening. I just wanted to know again about the reputation management that you talked about before in the acceleration room. Isn't that extremely labor and human resource intense? So do you need to create new positions, or is it a shift from one department that you have where you bring people over, or is this the new budget that you have to create, and do they influence then your calculations at the end of the day?
No, it is true that, I mean, first of all, you have to have people who understand something. Yeah? And we had the privilege, I would say, to take one of the leaders of this new technology. And I'm still asking myself how we had the chance to get Pete over to come to us. So of course, you invest. But on the other hand, I would say you redeploy perhaps more than invest more. Because when I say that, okay, in today's world, 50% still goes into the older media, the rest is getting more and more into new media, into new forms, well, then you need a little bit less on this side, and you have to replace them with people who have more knowledge on the other side. So I would say it's more a redeployment and then you train. I mean, those people who are there, the 30 people, and it is absolutely fascinating if you go into this room, because it's like a war room. I mean, the first chart, which was very shortly up there, unfortunately, you saw all the screens on top of it. So you have on top of it, in this room, the 30 people sitting around, everybody has 2 screens down there, and then you have these war room screens on top where all the things are happening in real lifetime. Yeah? Now, though they are there for 8 months, and then after 8 months they go back. And guess what? Every one of those wants to have a war room at home. Can be sure. Okay? So, and then comes the next group in. So you train those people. And that's a way how we built up the institutional capabilities, which, remember, I thought was one of the very important things in order to have a company that really can confront proactively these new realities that we're talking.
Peter, I think everyone agrees with me. We got a very interesting and a very great lesson day on leadership from you. And I think what your leadership is based on involvement, knowing the details, getting involved, being a part of the change that is out there. I think that was really impressive. And I'm absolutely sure that gives you a huge advantage, because I'm not sure that other chairmen and other CEOs of those huge companies are involved in those details and understand and therefore support and lead the way to give it the right direction. I think we are very privileged that we had you here, and we hope we can continue and build this relationship with you and with the Nestle company. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.